This is Beat Motel, and we're going to talk about Bjork's long-term relationship with a cat and the film of it. We're going to talk about the bewildering success of the Rolling Stones, and we're going to talk about why you shouldn't eat white skunks. Let's do it. So like that swirly pasta, but sort of more fleshy and somehow alert. You're listening to the Beat Motel podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalus, booty scrutux, angry flap, and filth biscuits. And we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on. You're already doing that Martin Sheen looking out the window thing. Oh, what you got in your mug? You got two swans having a snog. Mine just says Suffolk.
Oh, this is two bananas on a plate. What's it? There's spinach at the bottom, and then there's some satsuma around it, and some. This was a piece of food art that my sister-in-law made a few Christmases back.
Did you eat it?
No, I hate banana.
It reminds me of that T-shirt that Steve Jones at Sex Pistols wore a few times with the two cowboys kissing on it.
Yeah.
Which I've noticed somebody...
Knobs out. That's a Vivian Westwood T-shirt.
I know somebody else has started wearing that. One of the young'uns on the music scene trying to look shocking. And I'm like, yeah, that's been done. That's thoroughly been done. Dear. Right. So welcome to Beat Motel. You know what you're in for. If you don't know what you're in for, then you can leave now if you want. It's up to you. But we'd rather you stay around. We are notionally a music podcast. And to prove that, shall we play your riff of the week?
Is it
Sam?
Music? Maybe one day I'm just going to choose something really, really difficult, and we'll discuss whether it's music or not.
Oh, it sounds like you've been going to the kind of gigs I perform at. Is this music? I can remember being in an interview on the radio along with someone called Ryan Jordan, and the interviewer said, "How do you compose your music?" And he got really cross. He said, "I don't compose it. It's not music." What a brilliant response. How dare you assume I compose this nonsense?
Don't put this amongst things I like.
Right, here's your riff of the week. So it's the second week in a row you've chosen something not in English that I really like. So I'm just laughing because I've just looked up the translation. But you tell us who it is.
That's Julian in English. It's Julian Mayorga. Badly pronounced Spanish. It's Julian Mayorga.
Yeah, the surname didn't change much for translation, did it?
And I apologise profusely to him. He is an avant-garde Colombian singer-songwriter who, with this as his 9th album, a clattering, absurdist slice of post-cumbia psychedelia, Chak 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 Chak, is a feverish mix of angular electronic guitars, circuit-bent beats, found percussion, and rapid-fire incantations, with influences that include Tom Zay, Tom Waits, and Captain Beefheart.
Quite evident in listening to it, but very appealing. When I clipped it, prepared it for the show, I didn't get it at all. I was like, oh, this sounds like a Sam choice. But listening to it back, the sort of the whole of it coming together sounds really nice. Although, what's the difference between found percussion and industrial? So if like Oisen, Noosen, Nars, and Noosenbarton, what are they called? Oisen, noise, and
maybe it's a variation of a theme rather than an absolute distinct.
I'd like to think it's very particular. So industrial from Oisen, noise, and Boys. Oh, it's really bugging me. I can't remember how to say it. Noisenbarton. Noisen. There'll be people I know listening to this just go, "You stupid twat," and with good cause. So if they were in that fancy studio in Germany, walloping pipes and clattering, I don't know, dentures together with rotting pineapples and all that stuff to make the percussion. I like the idea that Julian Meogra, because it says found, I'd like to think he's really particular and he will only use things he has actually found. But you can't go out to try and find things. It's got to be, you've got to take you by surprise. So where would you go, Dr. Sam, if you wanted to be surprised by accidentally finding things you could use for percussion?
Want to be surprised?
Yeah. I mean, like, pleasantly surprised like that. Look at that. I could use that for percussion.
That's a difficult question, because where would I go to be surprised?
It wouldn't be a surprise if you choose to go there, would it?
Yeah, I mean, the place I was just thinking of, like, maybe the distinction is that industrial stuff is using sort of machinery that is intentionally industrial, whereas found stuff can be that, as well as, say, like finding a plimsoll and then hitting it against your hand, and that's a found percussion.
I think percussion's in found percussion, or that sort of, or I think organic percussion is probably what I'd like to call it. It's really interesting because whenever people do it, they always want you to know. So John Hopkins is one of my favourite electronic artists, and Rival Consoles. Both of them talk at length about, most of the percussion sounds came from objects I found in my house. And although the memory of being a parent of a toddler is fading away, I can only say that I also know the sound of every object in my house being struck against every other object in my house from when my child was about 2 years old. Fucking everything, like ping, ping. Oh, what's that? Oh, right. So that's the cat bowl being hit against, not the cat, I hope. That's the cat bowl being.
The cat has bolted.
The cat goes nowhere near, very sensibly goes nowhere near toddlers. It's why would they? Do your cats stay away from your child?
Knowingly, yes, but then when we give him a treat for them, they sort of get very curious.
Curious enough to accept the treat?
Yeah.
Ah.
And cats have. I just don't think we understand the how quickly a cat's primary interest can change.
Well, they've chosen to be domesticated, but they are still wild animals, much so more than dogs. I think that's a sliding scale. If you've got dogs who are like sycophants, who just want to sniff your ass or whatever,
apparently you can tell by how pointy the ears are.
What, with cats or dogs?
Both.
What about other things on the scale, like guinea pigs? Because they've only got very small ears.
Well, they're just glorified. They're not very tasty.
Have you eaten guinea pig?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say I kind of saw which way that was going quite quickly. Anyway,
very bony, not a lot of meat. It was not worth. I have to say, not worth the fight.
Not worth the fight. How much fight did this guinea pig put up?
Even dead, it was tough to get the fucking meat off.
Oh man, I might not put that clip on TikTok. Although we'll talk about the TikTok comments maybe later. It turns out you shouldn't rile, or you should rile Mastodon fans. I'm not sure which way around it is really.
Have you been banned from TikTok for riling Mastodon fans?
Should we do this now? I will tell you the translation of No te comas la bancas no mofitas. So that's the name of the song. The translation is, don't eat the very white skunks. Very white. I mean, the mucky ones, the ones who let themselves go, the ones that aren't black and white. Pepe Le Pew. No, he's too white.
But he's got black in it. That doesn't make sense.
Well, all skunks have black and white on them, don't they?
I don't know. I'm not a...
Skunks are like the black metal critters of the world.
What are pandas then?
Pandas.
I always think of it as panda makeup rather than.
No, I've always thought more skunk. I think pandas are a bit more like Kiss. They're a bit more jolly. Right. So, my favourite. So we both commented. To be fair, we're both in this saying that Mastodon are terrified of riffs. Just as they're building one up. We said they're the musical equivalent of sitting on the toilet and you feel like the shit's about to come out and then just pinching it off as soon as it starts. Wasn't quite the words we used, but I'll bring that into a vocabulary, a taxonomy of language that resonates with Beat Motel. My favorite, I think my favorite comment is from somebody with the username Mastodon Lover, and it just says Mastodon Lover is sad.
oh, now I feel bad. Everybody else. It's the people who put their emotions simply that you connect with, rather than these people who hide behind sort of cultural.
I'm sorry.
Bullshit.
I didn't even know the comment. I was like, I'm sorry about that.
You forget. Not everybody on the internet's a dick like you are. Not you, me. So.
But just before I move on, it's weird how we're getting so many views. We're reaching like 50,000 people a month sometimes on some of these platforms, which is insane because none of those people actually fucking subscribe. So we're repelling tens of thousands of people a month. But somebody I know called Sam Parnell, who I know through, but I know locally at work, a really old clip where we're talking about lyrics popped up. And she just says, Jesus, I nearly wet myself. And it's the bit where we're talking about Suede with the lyric, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but does your lover only come in a Volvo? I really like that. That was months ago. But back to the Mastodon fans, there's stupid ones, I like lazy ones where someone just says, this is horrific. Like, yeah, well done.
What of
it's
it?
Like saying, this is a hand. Right. I always said when I played in bands, bad bands years ago, and somebody else in the band would go, no, that riff's shit. I would say, well, try and be constructive. I know it's shit. Just try and offer something.
The thing is that sort of comment always relies on the idea that things have to have. Everything has to be ambitious, and we're here to tell people that not everything has to be ambitious.
Well, there you go. You can set the bar low.
Just enjoy the ride rather than trying to fucking reinvent, trying to claim your earth-shattering bullshit is new.
Well, neither of us are going for a big podcasting contract or even advertising revenue, are we? But there's one.
Why not? I'd like to.
You want to aim for the skies?
Yeah, I want to aim for
aim for disguise.
Exclusively, I want to be sponsored by companies who exclusively manufacture U-bends.
U-bends.
Yeah.
Next comment: not everybody needs a podcast. Which
true.
Again, true. Like I'm expecting to rile us with these. We're just like, I agree. The next one.
The point is that not everybody should have a podcast, but everybody can have a podcast.
I can't see my replies, but I think to that one I replied. We were walking past the place they give out podcasts, and the line was short, so we thought, "Fuck it, why not?" Next one, it's okay not to like progressive metal.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah,
thank you for your permission. Now this one, I'm gonna. It starts off in lowercase and ends up in uppercase, so I'm gonna try and have to read it in that way. Yeah, mate. No propulsion. To Mastodon. Yeah, sure. No propulsion. To Mastodon! Scared the cat then. Don't know what's going on with him. But the next comment I particularly like, it just says, bro is just making noises with his face. Which I love almost as much as a few months ago, bro flosses with a towel. Which is one of my other favourite comments. Just making noises with his face.
Is it the same person?
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe I've got a follower. That's particularly good. Actually, somebody else says, they love Leviathan, but really struggle with everything else. Really want to like Mastodon, but it doesn't click. That's actually a thoughtful, interesting comment. That's good.
Less of that.
Balanced out by the next one saying opinions for the sake of having opinions. Couple of rage baiting ARL fellas trying to summon a bit of relevance. What's ARL? ARL. Anal
retentive leviathans.
That's what it is. Okay, anal retentive summoning relevance.
Association of Research Libraries.
That's exactly what we are. Oops. Again, people are agreeing with this, actually. Crack the Sky is an incredible album. The rest is a bit meh. Then the next one I particularly like, and it's one of those people who just has a series of numbers, which means their parents clearly didn't love them when they were born, if that's what their name is.
All I'm getting is Association of Research Libraries.
Okay, no, I'll go with that. I'm good with that. Then the next one, proving once again that if you can't be successful with a talent, become a music journalist. Again, yeah. Then there's Mastodon Vegan, who just says I'm offended, but then has like the rolling laughy face, which I think is my favourite type of comment. I like. I don't want to make anyone angry, but I'm just bewildered at how cross people get when you say you don't like the same things they like.
Oh, like the internet is this awful. I knew one person who was paid to be a music journalist rather than whatever we're doing, and
People would pay us not to do
this. His biggest thing, the thing that he hated most on the internet was when they opened up the comments. Yeah, I can't. There's an aspect of like finding sort of joy in it, but I can't help but agree. The comment section of any website. I had one friend who used to read the comment section on news articles. I just don't know why the fuck you would do that. Just don't. And people who want to comment, unless you got actually something to contribute, shut up in the way that we should shut up. So fuck off.
I wrote we're arguing ourselves out of existence there, and with good cause.
Oh, we've already done episodes on like bands putting out too much shit.
That was the first one. That was 106 episodes ago. Then there's the usual stuff like what a dog shit take, which I don't understand the English of. What a dog shit take. What a dog shit's not capable of taking anything. It can't like lift anything. It can take a foot, I suppose, once, twice, depending on the consistency. I'd really like ones that the next one's Salt the Wound, number 9. So I don't know what the previous Salt the Wounds are up to, that he's taken over the mantle. I assume it's like the way Succession works in a royal family. What are these two on about? They have no clue at all. Again, this is all very straightforward. This is brilliant though. Hilarious to be. This is another one. Mastodon huffs farts was the next comment. Which again, I like the visual nature, the visceral nature of that. Then the next one, Vincent, just Vincent, normal name. Hilarious to be complaining about Guardian metal on the most Guardian metal podcast ever. You actually say in that clip that you read the Guardian. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'd read anything else if it had. Yeah.
A lot of the rest of it's not that interesting. I mean, I think it peaked early, really.
Let's move on. What's your riff of the week? Who cares? Fuck them all.
I just want to give credit to this one comment. I don't know what it is. The film is just a film, but there's one comment that I'd like to think was beautifully crafted. We're talking about the Carpenters on this clip, and somebody replied saying, "You probably know more Carpenters song than you think. Close to You, Top of the World, We've Only Just Begun." And I replied, "Yeah, I guess we only have just begun," thinking about how many Carpenters songs we know. Then I read it again and went, "Oh yeah, the Carpenters have got a song called We've Only Just Begun."
I know that that's a good joke, Andrew. Though.
Oh, what? A good joke by them.
By you.
Oh, by me. Oops. There you go. Complete ignorance and lack of knowledge leads to humour. Right. Let's move on to my riff of the week. This. There's a chance you might know who that is. Do you want to take a run at it?
No, it sounded pretty. pretty familiar, but yeah, nice bass fingering.
Nice fingering. I have a terrible habit of being very late to the party with things, and that's a band called American Football.
Oh yeah.
And the song title is so of its time and is so emo. The song title is "I'll See You When We're Both Not So Emotional," which I think is about as emo as you can get. But this is from 1999, and American Football kept popping up on various music documentaries that I've been watching.
One of the most off-putting things about the whole emo thing wasn't the sound or anything like that. I mean, it wasn't where I was at the time, but just the fucking band names are so bad.
American Football is a terrible band.
Going to church on Sunday, Thursday, American Football. I mean, fucking hell, guys. Come on.
There was a band in Ipswich called "And I Will Take You On for a Race Around the World, and I Will Win, and I Will Bite Your Nose." And I never booked them because I'm not making that fucking flyer. Like, just have a nice short name like Slint. That is a band, isn't it? Actually,
yeah, that is bad.
Well, actually, there was a hardcore band from Bury St Edmunds called Buh, which is a Bury St Edmunds word for boy.
I had a drunken project with a friend that we almost turned into a real band before people moved on in their lives, called Harumph.
Harumph.
Which was from Blazing Saddles when Mel Brooks is the town mayor and he's going, Harumph, Harumph, Harumph.
I've not seen Blazing Saddles. I saw it when I was a kid, alarmingly. But I do want
to... At this point, this is the point you put something on TikTok and people go, what the fuck?
Oh, don't. People are still commenting about me saying the test match special theme tune by Booker T and the MGs was from Ski Sunday. It's still like firing on all cylinders. But American Football, I really struggled to choose the right riff for that, because that first album, which I think is just called American Football, it's beautiful, it's immaculate, and it's interesting, and I can see where so much music came from afterwards. And there's something I find really interesting about the fact it's almost entirely clean guitars, and like the interplay between them, and the bass playing and the drumming. It's just a really interesting album. And I am always late to the party, and I looked it up after seeing there's a new band called Splinters in Bury St Edmunds, and they listen to this podcast, and I've probably mentioned them before. But I saw them play, and I was in the toilets, and I heard somebody say to their friend, "Isn't it nice hearing some Midwest emo in Bury St Edmunds?" And I was like, "That's Midwest emo." So I sort of went on a little journey that led me to that. But I think that album might be one I buy on vinyl. You know, some albums are just, I'd like that on vinyl.
But I would argue that it was made in 1999, and even though the punk underground did keep vinyl alive in some circles, or at least helped keep the punk vinyl alive, probably designed for CD.
Yeah, masters for CD and all the rest of it, isn't it? Look, we've broken our record, 23 minutes in to an hour-long podcast, and we haven't mentioned the theme yet. What is the theme?
Great last tracks.
Yeah.
Of probably vinyl or CDs. Not does, yeah.
I've written it down as best album endings, and I can't be asked to edit it, so...
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward, this one.
It was pretty straightforward, but I've tried to do it in an interesting way, which means I'll fuck it up. So let's start. This came about from... I think we just plugged it out for us after the last episode, actually. I don't think it really has an origin story. Let's start with...
Formed in 1973, their music has been variously described as hard rock, blues rock, and heavy metal, but the band simply call it rock and roll. They are cited as a formative influence of the new wave of British heavy metal. They are a spin-off of the band Marcus Hook Roll Band. Marcus Hook Roll Band were a studio group formed in London in 1972 by Harry Vander and George Young, both ex the Easy Beats, as a session band to record their songwriting efforts. The group has had two versions from London and Sydney, formed in mid 1973 when Vander. I've lost the paragraph. I'm not going to finish that.
That's just getting dangerously close to actually being informative. I assume
But-
you're just reading off Wikipedia.
I am, yeah.
Now, hearing that, so ACDC, rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Sorry, the inner grammar pedant. Anyway, let's skip past that. When I made the riff, I realized I'm always completely distracted in an off-putting way by ACDC just by the way they look. Which is very judgmental, and it's easy to be judgmental, so that's the path I take. But just I can't get past the whole schoolboy thing.
Yeah, I mean, AC/DC were the first band I was sort of obsessed with the image of the albums of. I remember when I used to a lot of Sundays we ended up in a restaurant after church, and there was a CD shop opposite, and it was a CD shop back in those days. This is the late 80s, 90s. Vinyl wasn't a big thing by that point. And I remember going into it, and the AC/DC album covers are always like, I don't know, there was something about them, like for those about to rock, with big cannon on the front of it. And it's just like, there's something. And even though it has ended up with us being, two middle-aged men talking about AC/DC, which I'm sure there's at least 5 podcasts already doing.
Yeah.
It's, but that song, it ain't noise pollution. It's quite hard to say when you're thinking about it, but it's got a really nice, like, last track. It's actually quite a nice lethargic feel to it. It doesn't have this sort of like push to it.
Which album?
It's quite laid back. Back in Black, the first album with their current singer, who's still a new boy in the band.
The current singer. They did hoof him out.
The Geordie chap.
The Geordie chap. That when I said about being put off by them, the difference that I just experienced just listening to them is realizing how much groove and swagger there is to that riff. It's in E, I'm assuming. It sounds like it is in E, but it's got so much more heft and power to it than a lot of the really detuned metal that I like, to be honest. It's got real and the drums are just thumping away. I don't think AC/DC ever do anything particularly complex. They just do rock and roll very, very well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, they I think this is, someone said it's easy. I can't remember. It's easy. It's much harder to do really good stuff really simply, which is the allure of things like AC/DC, of the Ramones, of even, it really, you look at the bare bones of it and you go, how the fuck did they make it sound so good?
Yeah, there's so many bands like that. I mean, I'd argue Jesus and Mary Chain are the same, really basic.
Which brings me to another podcast idea I had, which is
go on, I'll make a note.
Bands you would not want to cover.
Bands you'd not want to, or impossible to cover.
You wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to play.
That's good. I like that. I've made a note of that. Cool. So what was your reasoning for that being a good end of album track? Just because
it feels like, it's the 10th track of a 10-track album, and it's explosive, the whole album. It's got like some of the biggest songs that AC/DC sort of have to date. It's got You Shook Me All Like Long, Hell's Bells, Back in Black, and it has a really it has like almost a post petit moi, if that's a bad pronunciation of the French, a little death post orgasm sort of
Petit
feel to
mort.
it. Yeah,
Petit mort. Mort.
petit morty, and it's got like a bit of a sort of post orgasmic sort of like, yeah, that was good. Okay, this is how we're going to finish the night sort of aspect. It doesn't have that sort of like fuck energy that they have the rest of the album.
Fuck energy. That's such a brilliant phrase. Oh, okay. Yeah, good choice. Good choice. Thanks for raising that. My first choice is just to get it out of the way, just because everyone who listens to this podcast knows that I'm going to choose this for the best album ending. And you're going to have to strain your ears a bit because the bit I want to highlight happens during the fade out, but I'm always going to apologise for playing it because it's so predictable of me. So it's like I really love that. It's like an extra little song at the end. That little bit guitar that comes in, the way the drum shuffle changes, doesn't echo anything else on the entire album. It's completely just brand new, right in the dying gasps of an album. Do you want to have a guess at who that was?
Oasis.
That hurts. That actually genuinely, like, I got a little stab of pain in the old Gulliver. Then it was like, oh,
Stone Roses.
Yeah, Stone Roses, of course. And the song, it's the end of I Am the Resurrection, which is the end of the official first Stone Roses, their eponymous first album. There was one before called Garage Flower, but we'll skip that. And the song rips along, it breaks in the middle and becomes something completely different, and it's just a brilliant thing. And I hated the fact as a fade out when I first heard it, until in those dying gasps, they actually do something interesting with a fade out, which I can't think of many other examples of, because I wanted to do a podcast episode about new song starts in the fade out, new hidden song in the fade out, but I can't think of any other bands that have done that.
I can't. Not off the top of my head.
So there's a cul-de-sac, but we can skip past that now. I just had to get that out of the system.
So you like it because it sort of suggests that the party is continuing and it's going into the ether, and you don't know where it's going, and there's more left to be said.
That's really nicely summarised. I hadn't realised that's how I thought about it, but yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. It's not an ending. It's look, we can only put so many songs on the album, and this is where we have to draw the line. They kind of fucked it up with when the album got big. They released Fool's Gold maybe a year after the album, so it's not on the album. It's just a Age of the 12-inch. It's called Fool's Gold 956, I think, because that's the length of it. And they started tacking that onto the end of the CD version of the album, which I'm still horrified by, because that should be the end of the album. It's announced that it's the end. It's everything about it says this is the end of the album. Then it whips into a looped version. Well, it is looped from Funky Drummer by that bloke who shouted and screamed a lot.
James and the Browns.
James and the Browns, yeah. So that's an abomination. Anything else to say, or should we move on to your next track?
No. So they attached it to the repress of the CD or the original CD?
It'd be difficult to put it on the original one because it's already in people's homes, like sneak in the night.
So it was sort of because it was popular. They wanted to stick it on.
I think that's one of the complaints that the band had about the label they were on, Silvertone, that once they started to get somewhere, they just started money grabbing. Started doing a lot of things that the band hadn't agreed to. And I've probably mentioned the history of this before, but they were particularly aggrieved because they signed their record deal in 1987, I think. First thing came out Silvertone 1988. They had been on another label before, and they signed a vinyl only deal, and then their CD went to number one. Oh no, it was kept off number one by Soul to Soul, but it was in the top 10 CD album chart, selling almost exclusively on CD for years. So they made nothing from it at all. So the idea that not only were they compromised their artistic vision by just shoving on the later singles, they also weren't making any money from it. So there you go. Right, your second choice is... Who was that?
Kid Dynamite is a 1943 American film directed by Wallace Fox and starring the East Side Kids. It was based on the 1942 short story The Old Gang by Paul Ernst, and features additional dialogue by comedian Morley Amsterdam. The working title of this film was Little Mobsters. The East Side Kids were characters in a series of 22 films released by Monogram Pictures.
22?
1940 to 1945. That's
20 films in what? Like a year and a half, 2 years?
In 5 years. 22 films in 5 years.
That's still absurd.
The series of low-budget imitation of the Dead End Kids. How are these not band names? Dead End Kids.
Dead End Kids.
Good band name.
I think I might. Dead End Kids is very cool. I might nick that at some point.
Anyway, no, this is Kid Dynamite, a Philadelphia-based hardcore band. They are based on cheese.
It really confused me when I made the clip for this, because I was in a bit of a hurry making these clips last night, and I thought you'd give. I sent you a message to say I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
because I thought you'd chosen Ms. Dynamite. Do you know Miss Dynamite?
Oh yeah,
Miss Dynamite.
Yeah,
isn't nothing like how she sounds.
No.
But yeah, Kid Dynamite. That sounds like a lot of sort of punk crossover hardcore bands I've heard. So
they were, by the time, I mean, I heard about them through the old punk news forum that we were part of, not punknews.org, but .org UK, just to make things clearer. But at that point, they were already legend. They released 2 albums, one in 1998 and one in 2000, and then that's it. And then they released like a B-side and rarities sort of thing. And the singer went on to be in, to sort of drive the Non More Black franchise that was part of Fat Wreck. It's still going. I
didn't know they were part of Fat Wreck.
And the guitarist, I don't know why I'm to the drummer and the bassist, but I know the guitarist went on to form currently in a band called Open City, and also, Non More Black is the guitarist. Was Painted Black was the Painted Black was the singer. Was it the other way around?
Oh.
Painted Black is a guitarist. This is good. This
and they say
really
we don't do facts. I mean, like they say we don't know what we're doing. How dare they?
Yeah,
you've got it in front of you and you're not even reading it correctly.
Yeah. But they sort of, I don't know. They weren't the most original band, but they refined the prototype incredibly well, and. Their second album's got a great, sort of just tells you what it does on the tin, which is shorter, faster, louder.
Yeah, brilliant. And what else do you want? They sound like they would have been brilliant live.
Yeah, exactly. And like massive sing-alongs, very melodic, sort of not too macho, I would say, more focused around the speed. But,
not relying on like the metalcore breakdowns and stuff.
Yeah, like melodic version of basically Minor Threat sort of stuff. Just I wanted to pick that out because I was looking at. There are other, there are plenty of stuff that I did not pick that are amazing ending tracks. Damage Inc. by Metallica, What else? Why Can't We Be Friends by War? And there's, I was actually thinking, did I make a note of the other ones? I can't remember if I did. Yeah, Seven Seas of Rye by Queen, and all these. There are all these other great, but I wanted to talk about bands I don't normally talk about because they're not in my current listening. So
that's where I massively struggled. I didn't want to just choose. The reason I've titled it Best Album Endings, I didn't want it to be the best last song on an album because I thought that we can do more than that. But I really struggled with this because each time I tried to think of a really good album ending, now, up here, obviously no one can see this, especially if you're listening on the podcast, are all my CDs. So all my CDs are on this huge set of shelves above here. And when I come up with tracks for the podcast, I lean back and I just look up for absolutely ages. And I realized that I kept coming back to last tracks on albums by bands that I've talked about a lot on the podcast because there's so many bands where I love the whole album. So I could have easily have chosen the Replacements or Against Me. Incidentally, some friends of mine are touring with Laura Jane Grace at the moment. Band called Pet Needs, who I played at one of their very first gigs at the John Peel Centre when they had, on Thursday nights, they used to do this thing where basically anyone can turn up. It's not open mic because you have to book in, but it's like an open forum. And who wouldn't want to play the John Peel Centre? And it might have even been their second gig or something, but they were super young, and I just keep on bumping into them. And last time I saw them, I was playing a festival with them, and we'd made really good friends by them. And I walked up to them and just went, "Look, I don't want you to be offended, but I'm assuming you all adore Against Me." Because there was definitely that vibe to their music. It's definitely there. They, at the time, were leaning a bit more on the folky side. But they're one of those bands where they took it really seriously, and they're like, "We will make a living from this. We will. That's it, and we're going to do whatever it takes." And they were probably in their early 20s when I first met them, and fuck it, they've done it. Well, they are doing it, and popped up on Instagram and just saying, "Really looking forward to tomorrow night, first night of the tour with Laura Jane Grace and the what's her band called? The Trauma something." And I was just like, sometimes you see your friends do well, and you're just like, yeah, it's just well done, brilliant.
That's very cool.
How fantastic! Yeah. That's absolutely brilliant. We're going to go see him. They're playing Bury St Edmunds at the fantastic Hunter Club, which is the all ages venue. Oh, I ought to take you to a gig there. There's something so cool about these gigs because they're how I imagined all ages gigs that it's footage of Fugazi and whatever playing. That's how I imagine them that they would have been because they're genuine. You can be like 5 and go if you want, and they're playing there. So I'm really looking forward to chewing their ear off. Johnny, the singer, chewing his ear off all night about Laura Jane Grace and what that experience was. Because on Reddit this morning, I saw somebody wrote out what they remembered from the set list, having seen them in Glasgow or somewhere. It's a strong set. It's a really, really strong set they're playing. But I can't always just talk about Against Me on this. So I'm going to play my next choice, which is this. And I'm going to ask you why I chose it. Do you want to have a guess who that is? And don't say Oasis.
Is it?
It's a band who each time I've chosen them, you've been surprised. The Pogues, no.
Yeah.
Or the Popes, which I always thought was like a really unsubtle rebrand of Shane McCowan's next band. What should we call this band? The previous one was called the Pogues. Well, we spent too much money on ink on the T-shirts, so I want a shorter name. And
I just want to bick over the...
Yeah, I've still got a load of T-shirts. I just want to update that. That's the Charlatans.
Oh.
And the track is called No One, Not Even the Rain, which I've been trying to figure out that track, sort of that name, forever. And I think they were just choosing, at the time, phrases that were just interesting. So the album's called Between the 10th and the 11th, which is an English Civil War reference. And they'd gone from being like a baggy kind of big trousers and whatever and silly floppy haircuts. They kicked the guitarist out because he couldn't play very well. And they got a really good guitarist, really interesting guitarist. And the second album was produced by Flood. So they were like wholeheartedly abandoning baggy. They were like very wisely going, look, we are not going to last if we get lumped in as being Manchester. So the second album's a lot more electronic and a lot more interesting, but the really basic reason I chose that track, and I'm going to play it again and talk over it, is that at the end of it, you hear the sound, a very definite end of album sound. And if I remember rightly, the sound is they hoisted a guitar amp, a combo, Marshall combo with a reverb in it, hoisted it up really, really, really high in the studio and then smashed it. Which is weird, because I don't think they would actually break. I've seen those things pretty much get run over by cars. So the basic reason I chose that is, why not end the album with a big sound?
That is the bang. End with a bang.
I just love how it just sort of rolls on like that.
I think this is the point of like you can make... It's interesting. I've gone for songs and you've gone for like how do they actually finish the entire thing, and it is about like mine is pointing more towards the arch of the thing, and yours is more pointing towards like how do you create drama at the end to wake up whoever's listening to it.
Yeah, but also to bookend it.
Yeah.
So if you've got the beginning of the first song as the intent, as this is what we're going to be, the very, very end of it. It's just something I really like about having a definite ending to an album. And I think these days, warning, trigger warning, old man rant coming. If the death of the album really is happening, and I don't really believe it is, and bands are only going to release singles, that's a real shame, because you're not going to get the strong opener and the definite ending. But also, if major labels are saying to bands, look, record 10 number one singles and we'll package them, then you've lost it entirely.
Well, there's a weird thing as well, but like one of the things is that a lot of these app services, music players will just play, what they call radio after an album is finished. So you don't necessarily, if you're going along just listening to the thing, you don't necessarily know that the album is finished in an interesting, sort of way. I was listening I've just discovered today that the Descendants are coming to Brighton, to Helsinki on the last day of their tour in the spring. And I went, I'll go and see that. And they're touring with Circle Jerks. Yeah. That's going to piss people off. And they're talking with Negative Approach. I tried the Circle Jerks. I'm sorry. They're just not very good. And Negative Approach, who I listened to, and it's like, some of it's pretty good. And then it's such a short album, it just kept playing. And I was like, what's this? This sounds familiar. And it started playing me, Minor Threat. And so I have no idea how long. Actually, I can look up how long it took me to realize.
Well, the album's famously, was it 15 minutes long? Something really short. It's called Group Sex, isn't it? Have you ever tried to play any of that Circle Jerk stuff?
No.
It is surprisingly difficult. When End Times, one of the times that these End Times came to an end, we're just going to play hardcore. We decided, right, before we play hardcore, proper old hardcore, we need to learn a bunch of hardcore songs to sort of get how they operate, because it isn't just thrashing. It's not at all. And Circle Jerks, trying to play the songs, and Minor Threat, they're actually really complicated. The riffs aren't crazy, but the complexity of how non-conforming it is to the four bar rule is wild. A lot of the punch really is, because first time you'll get 4 bars, next time you get 3.5, next time you'll get 2 7/8. It really was. I found it really difficult to play. The biggest shock between being overconfident about how easy a genre would be to play, and then the shock of finding out how difficult it is to play. That's it. But that circle jerks reforming is going to upset a lot of miserable people. Other people will go,
Oh no,
hey,
Circle
like
Jerks have been playing together for on and off for years again.
Oh, I didn't know that. That thing with streaming services just rolling on to play the next thing. I have discovered quite a lot of good music with that. When I was listening to the American football album, I was driving up to Norfolk, so I couldn't. I'm not going to like prod my phone while I'm driving through Thetford Forest, because it's you've got to pay attention, because there's always, when he said a word, there's always people who make unfortunate decisions overtaking you, and which really pisses me off, because they put us in danger. And so I couldn't skip on, and it got to the end of the album, and it played what I assume was the demo versions, but they were sounded like a cassette recorder in the middle of the room. And at that moment in time, I was entirely up for that. I really wanted to hear that. Because the album's so clean and so sparse. It's kind of like the production's kind of like some Pixies stuff where it's deceptively clean. So I think Pixies sound really simple. So I was like that. I asked GPT, how long is group sex by Circle Jerks? It says this content violates our usage policies. Oh, come on.
I mean, that's the point. That's the point where you can tell AI is not actually intelligent.
Yeah, I'm not that worried. Look for context. Right. Oh, sorry, I don't know what that was. I've got the cat here with me. She keeps sneezing. I don't know if you've been hearing it.
No.
She's been doing way too much coke. Right. What's your third choice?
That was Triumph of a Heart, a song recorded by Icelandic singer Bjork, Godsmanndóttir, born 21st November 1965, who is an Icelandic singer, songwriter, composer, record producer, and actress, noted for a distinctive voice, three-octave vocal range, and sometimes eccentric public persona. Bjork has developed an eclectic musical style over a career spanning 4 decades, drawing on electronica, pop, trance, trip-hop, jazz, and avant-garde music.
Stop reading Wikipedia.
This is from the album Medulla, and it features a really sort of fascinating group of people. Cut from Bjork. The song features Razel from The Roots, Gregory Purhagen, and Japanese beatboxer Dokaka.
You can really hear the human voices in that. It's fascinating.
And it's just it's one of my favourite Bjork albums. And I know I said I wanted to highlight artists we didn't talk about a lot, but it's Bjork, so fuck it.
I don't talk about her a lot.
Don't talk about a massive amount. But yeah, it's just one of the most fascinating albums in a so-called pop canon around, and it still is. It's such a joy to listen to, and it's also really nice to sort of at that point where you have someone doing cat noises in the background. You're going, I don't think Bjork is always taking herself so seriously.
I don't think so. I think she's got an incredible energy. I mentioned being distracted when I was making the ACDC clip, distracted by the video. I'm completely distracted by the video for this track, which I'm going to include in the show notes. Partly because, I mean, Bjork is phenomenally beautiful, and that goes that opinion goes right back to me having a picture of on my pencil case when I was at high school. Just something about I've just always been
Oh, Andrew's going to
captivated.
the toilet with a pencil case again. Oh,
But I think it's, even when she was in the Sugar Cubes, everything I ever read about her, she just seemed so three-dimensional, so real. All other bands, all other musicians would talk about the tour or the studio, and Bjork would talk about, do you know, there's a clip of her on YouTube. Do you know, in a television, if you open it up, it works by firing electrons from a little electric cannon at the back of the screen, and it fires them against the glass. But don't open the television because electricity is really dangerous. She just spoke in this way that was, I just wanted to have a conversation with her, like genuinely. Even as a teenager, I was like, I want to just talk to her. I just want to have a conversation and just be fascinated. Although it probably a bit one-sided because as a teenager I would have just been staring at her slack-jawed. Yes, but the video, the reason it distracted me wasn't because of that. It was it's just the storyline of the video. Which, do you know the video, Sam?
no, I don't.
Oh,
I don't believe in music videos.
This won't. It's a Bjork music video, so I think hall pass, as the Americans would say. It's about the breakdown and reconciliation of a long-term relationship between Bjork and a ginger cat. And it starts with, this is so Bjork, it starts with Bjork, they're in bed together, not talking, and she's like looking at him, like almost like the meme, kind of like, why isn't he talking to him? This cat's wearing pajamas. Just like huffily, like looking away like that.
Probably pissed off to be in pajamas.
And then the cat gets, at some point, goes to a bar and just sits there drinking at the bar. And at the end they do reconcile, and there's like, I'm guessing, meant to be like a little tender moment where they have a kiss. But obviously it's a real cat the whole way through. This is well before anyone had the budget to do CGI themselves. And they have a little kiss, and I'm sure it's Bjork being Bjork, but this clearly massively fake little ginger arm comes up and pats her on the head. It's worth watching the video. It's just, even if you watch it once, it will enrich your life. But good choice, Bjork. I'm going to go for this one next. The reception. I was going to ask who that is, but I think the vocal probably gives it away.
Is that the BBC cricket theme?
That is the theme to Ski Sunday. And the singer there is Screaming Lord Sutch. So yeah, quite clearly that's you can't always get what you want. The Rolling Stones as and I chose it because I thought I'm running out of ideas here, so I'm just going to choose a band's song that's one of their most popular that happens to be at the end of the album.
I have to say, I get the Rolling Stones in like isolation, and that's a great song, but as a general thing, I don't get the Rolling Stones.
I don't get it, and I don't know anybody who does. It's not just the case of having this bubble where my friends all like the same music, because that's not true in the slightest. But the Rolling Stones, I sort of get their cultural significance. But I don't know what the appeal is. I don't know what the appeal of the music is.
No, I don't get it either. And also, for me, my mum, I think the Rolling Stones are her favourite band. At least they're her favourite band that are still playing, because all the other ones are dead.
All bands are dead.
All bands are now just simulacra. They are images of bands that once were, and they're just sort of inventions that don't really exist. In hard speaking, yeah, I don't know, something putting off. There's something I find fundamentally off-putting that their band that my mum will still go and see.
Some of the bands, I was thinking about this when I was making the clip. So obviously Charlie Watts, the drummer, died, and Rolling Stones are carried on. But then I was thinking, the Who have carried on without, again, drummer died a long time ago, but without John Entwistle.
Yeah.
But I thought, no, the strangest one for a
Queen
band
have
that's
carried on without fucking Freddie Mercury.
there was never, I don't think that they ever fucked him. Then the weirdest one, come on, give me some, this come back from that. That was a cheap joke, wasn't it? Which is why I made it. But the weird one for me is Status Quo. They're carried on. So Francis Rossi, he was the lad who died. I always saw them as two people, a two-piece band, very clearly the two lead singers. And Rick Parfitt died several years ago now, and Status Quo carried on. I just find that bizarre. They played a pub called the Railway in Ipswich probably 10, 15 years ago. And they did it, I think, to do this, hey, we're with the people. We are, we're back at our grassroots and all that kind of stuff, which probably would have worked if it wasn't for the fact they then played the Regent quite not that long after. The Regent's what's the biggest seated arena venue in the whole of East Anglia here in Ipswich. And I got a friend who worked on crew, who worked backstage, and no one was allowed to look at them. So they came in. They came in with towels over their heads. Don't look at me. I don't think it was them saying, "Don't look at me." And their wardrobe. Bear in mind, they always wore like jeans and stuff. They had those wardrobe flight cases with like loads, and they all turned up. Tons of guitars. The least rootsy, down to earth thing ever. And about a week later, Motorhead played, and Lemmy walked in. I think he had his guitar in his hand. And they were like, okay, where's your wardrobe? And he was like, what fucking wardrobe? I'm wearing it. like complete two ends of the spectrum, complete different ends of the spectrum. And I don't think I've heard any bad stories about Lemmy, which is kind of nice. He's
Have
like
you seen the documentary?
No, I haven't. Is it? What's it called, and what service is it on?
I don't know what service it's on. It's called the Lemmy documentary.
Oh, okay. Well, that should make it easy to
No,
find.
it's called literally it's called Lemmy. It was 2010.
So when he was alive.
Yeah, and you can sort of go. I think you feel like you can go two ways about it, and it's either like people seem to either think, "Oh, what a cool guy," or people seem to think it's actually a bit depressing. And I was of the depressing camp.
No.
He just seemed a bit sad.
I don't want to watch that.
He spent his free times in a bar drinking. He lived in a shitty, what looks like a shitty apartment in LA, and he spent his time in a bar playing One Eyed Jack, and you just think that's not, that's just a bit sad, man.
Might skip that one. Right, your last choice is.
He still has his legs, nowhere to walk to, and nothing to hold.
Oh.
Big Business is a 1988 comedy drama featuring.
That's where I was going.
Oh, sorry.
Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. And the story is two sets of identical twins are born in the same hospital on the same night. They get mixed up because of a drunk nurse.
That instantly makes it an 80s film. You're like, that sounds funny. No, that's fucking horrific.
The mismatched twins cross paths to close down the Jupiter Hollow factory. I want to see this film now.
It's on Disney Plus. Although you are in another country, I suppose these things get complicated. Right, so tell us about that for real.
Oh, well, that's Big Business, the band. And
the band with the best bass sound of any band ever.
And let's have a look. It's from their third album. It's from their fourth album, Battlefield Forever. and the song is called Lonely Lyle. And they had a thing of closing out their albums. The 3 albums before that, 2 albums before that. They put 4 albums. They did 4 albums. That was their 4th album. 2, 3, and 4 all had these massive endings to them, and like these elongated long tracks. Because
proper album ending.
Yeah, this is over 3 minutes longer than any other track on that album, and yeah, just I wanted to celebrate Big Business because we talk about the Melvins occasionally, but Big Business were doing their thing before the Melvins got involved with the Melvins, and he has one of my favorite voices in metal.
He's one of my 2 favorite bassists. Him and Brian, what's his lad from These Arms of Snakes and Russian Circles and whatever. They're 2 of my favorite bassists. They don't look massively dissimilar either. But yep, so let's celebrate Big Business, but not at length because we're running over time. So here's my final choice. So that's A Tribe Called Quest.
They got dark, man.
Oh yeah.
The hell?
It ain't over, motherfucker.
Okay, well I managed not to what? I don't know what happened there. But yeah, it's Grave Diggaz. And that's the last track of 6 Feet Deep, which is the name for the album I'm going to use because I'm not going to say the other name. I've mentioned this album before. I'm not going to say it on the recording. And the reason I chose this is the track's called Outro. And what it does, it sounds quite disjointed and a bit all over the place, but the concept's really cool. During that track, they take the hooks from a lot of the other, or like key moments from a lot of the other tracks on the album and put them in the outro. So a bit like in an orchestral piece, in a big composition, you get the prelude, you get the first bit sort of has little snippets of what's to come, like a trailer, and then you have I can't remember what the end bit's called, rondo. No, it doesn't matter. Where they do the same thing. They're like, here's some of the hits you may have enjoyed during this orchestral piece. So I really like the idea of a fairly gnarly hip hop act doing the same thing. I just think it's nice. It's just cool. It's just an interesting concept.
The point in the musical where they put all the themes into one song, like they did in the South Park musical.
That point of the musical, I've usually left. I can't abide musicals. Some of my family are going to watch Heathers the musical on Friday in Cambridge. Well, you shrug. So Heathers, the Christian Slater film, it's one of those like 80s films that was really popular, but it's basically about him being an unpleasant murderer. So they've made a musical out of it, which I'm sad to say I've heard many times being played in this house. And it's got some fairly shocking themes in it for how jolly the music is. Again, themes I don't wish to discuss on here. And Izzy's taking her grandma. Not my mum, Emma's mum. God, my mum would like pass out within the first 30 seconds, I think. She'd just be like shaking on the floor. So yeah, musicals, no.
I've been because of Halloween. I've been subjected. We played my child Nightmare Before Halloween because the American age rating system to me seems pretty fucked up. Here is you only get the horror of the characters if you know all the cultural stuff that goes with it. So for my kid who doesn't understand that, it's actually an American film with no swearing and no violence. Or very little violence. It's got a kidnapping in it, but fuck's sake, a ninja go, they're kicking people and they're, off people's heads off all the time. So swings and roundabouts. And that's a musical. And I have to say, I didn't like it when I first saw it when I was, 12. And it's really grown on me.
Do you mean Nightmare Before Halloween or Nightmare Before Christmas?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, I thought you said Halloween. Sorry, I was thinking, oh, that's one I haven't seen.
No, it's because it's Halloween-ish themed,
Hmm.
and so we've been watching that quite a lot over the last sort of few weeks, and I've now sort of grown to like more than just the first song. It's sort of, I think, when you have children and you're exposed to their media, you have just to get Stockholm syndrome to these things. Find out what you enjoy in them.
It's not always negative. That's probably why I quite like Weezer now. I've just heard my child play it so many times, but the same thing never happened with a lot of other things. Right. I think we've shoved enough crap into the world for this episode. Anything you want to add, or should we just say goodbye?
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate potatoes on your plate.